Hey, grade sixes, welcome to your IXL. For today, we are continuing with CC section, which is geometric measurement. We've done the first 4 together, and today we're going to be looking at the area of compound figures. Don't let it freak you out. It is totally easy when I show you this trick of how to do it. So looking at this guy, this is CC5, area of compound figures. What is the area of this figure? So this looks a little crazy, so I'm going to show you. All you need to do is cut it up into 2 pieces, okay? You can draw a little dotted line. I don't think I have that option right here, so however you do it. Now you've got 2 options. You could be drawing it across here, and as you can see, you've now got 2 rectangles. And that's easy, just find a rectangle area and a rectangle area, add them together. You could also do it this way. It really does not make a difference at all. Here's a rectangle and here's a rectangle. Both are exactly the same. All right, so let's go with this one just for the sake of it. All right, and let's add in our area formula. So area is equal to length times by width, right? So if we're looking at this one here, this, let's call it rectangle 1 and rectangle 2, right? I can't be taking this one here because this is actually from here all the way across to there. And we actually want one that goes from here across, right? So if you look at the other side, you'll see that this side is the correct length. So we're going to use 14 and we're going to multiply it by the 10. All right, so let's just move that down a little bit. We've got 14 and we're multiplying it by 10, and that will equal, you can use your calculator, but we know that when you're multiplying by 10, you just put the 0 at the end, and this becomes squared centimeters because you are working with area. All right, remember you've got the 2 together. So this would be 14 centimeters, 10 centimeters, there's 2 centimeters, you're multiplying them together, so that's why you get that little 2 at the top, all right? Or you could call them squared centimeters, like, or square centimeters like they have here. Let's make it the same. Okay, so that is one of my rectangles. Now for rectangle 2, again, we can't be using 18 because that's got some of that one. So we're going to use this guy here at the bottom. That is 4, which is exactly the length that we're looking for. Okay, on this side, we can't use 5 because that's only part of this rectangle we're looking at. The 15 is the full side of this rectangle. So we're going to multiply by 15. So use your calculator, 15 times by 4, and that gives you 60 square centimeters, right? So now what you're going to do, you're going to add the 2 rectangles together. So we've got 140, and we're going to add the second rectangle. You can do that on your calculator if you need to, but we know that that is equal to 200, and it's the label stays the same because you're adding. Only when you're multiplying does the multiplying rule make it into the exponent changing, right? With your squaring. Okay, so our answer for this equation is 200 square centimeters. If you were to do it the other way with this little line going across here, making this little guy and then a big rectangle, you'd get to the exact same answer. Okay, so let's add that in. Okay, let's try it again. Let me clear some of my things here. Okay. While I'm doing this, you can perhaps work out the answer. Press pause if I'm going on too fast, and then come back to check. All right. So we're going to start by making our 2 rectangles. I'm going to cut mine straight down like that. Again, it really doesn't matter. You could cut it across that way instead. I wouldn't suggest doing both because then you're adding work to your plate. by having to work out now 3 rectangles instead of 2, but it would be possible, I guess. Let's just make it 2 and make it easier for ourselves. Okay, so the first rectangle, let's label them 1 and 2. And again, here it doesn't matter what order you do it, as long as you do them both. We can see that the side of number 1 is 15. Again, you don't have to do it in any specific order. The top part here is 4 centimeters. So 15 times by 4, you can work that out on your calculator, or if you know it in your head. What label are we using? We've got centimeters. And so we know that when we're multiplying, it becomes square centimeters, right? Or centimeters with that little 2 exponent above it. All right, the second rectangle, the side at the top, we can't use 22 because part of that is going to the first rectangle. So we're going to use 18, and we're multiplying that by the full side is 19. All right, calculator out. Let's go. 18 times 19, I get 342. When you're multiplying, remember, you have your square centimeters. What is our next step? We have to add the 2 together. So we're going to go 60, and we're adding 342. Use your calculator, and that gives us 402 square centimeters. Just a reminder, when you're adding, your unit doesn't change its exponent, only when you multiply. Alrighty, let's do one more of these together before we go on to the next section. So I'd suggest you pause, see if you can figure out what is going on. Let me just take these out of the way. All right, the first step, we make 2 rectangles. So let's do that. I'm gonna do mine across this way. And again, doesn't matter if you go across or straight down from there. Either one would work. You would just have a slightly different look of your answer, but your answer at the end would be exactly the same. Just your method would be slightly different, using different numbers to get there. Okay, let's add our working out. So we can be writing 1 and 2, could be the other way around, doesn't matter. Okay, so we've got 8 multiplied by 8, because our formula of trying to find out the area is length times by width, so side times by side. We can see for rectangle 1 that it's actually a square because we've got our 2 sides that are the same, and that means that opposite sides are equal. All 4 of my sides would be the same. So 8 times by 8, 64, and our label here is millimeters. And we can have a little 2 at the top. Let me draw it this time so that you've got it. Could look like that, right? Or you could write the whole square centimeters, square millimeters, like you've got it here in this label. The second rectangle, we can't use 22 because this one is part of the square part at the top. We have to use this side because this side has the full length. All right, so we've got 14, and we're multiplying it by, can we use 8? No, we can't, because that's only to that point in the side. So we got to use the 16 from the bottom. Okay, working out which sides to use, that's really an important part of this. You just have to make sure that it is in fact the complete side and not adding some other shape into your working out. Okay. So 14 times by 16 is 224, and we've got millimeters squared again. All right, so we're going to be adding those together. Going to be adding our two ounces together, and let's do that. 224, we're adding 64, and that gives us, again, your calculator is a good friend to have. I hope you all have one by now, wink, wink. Square millimeters. Okay, so 288. Let's get rid of that. 288 is my answer for this one. Okay, good. Let us now move on to, Let's clear that. And let's go back to CC6. And let's see what they have for us. Ooh, this one's exciting. It's going to come in with a couple of word problems, I'm pretty sure. Like if you look at this shape, you will see, I see a picture frame or a this green pot could be like a garden that is around a courtyard, like the amount of space they have for the garden. It could be a pathway around a swimming pool. It could be a gutter around a rooftop. There's so many different ways that they could use this in a word problem. So be aware of how to do these. They love these. Okay. So how do you do them? It is actually pretty easy. You know exactly what to do to get it. Just follow these steps and you'll get them. All right, so the question is, what is the area of the shaded region? Well, what I see, I've got 18 and 18. That to me is a square. It even looks kind of like a square, except in that it's got this bit that's cut out of it, okay? So it's asking for the shaded region, which is really only this green part that we want. So how do we find out area? What is our, we should have kept that. Area equals length times by width. Okay? So it doesn't matter which square you do. I always usually start with the biggest one. That's probably a good way to go. 18 times by 18. And we're just going to work out the area of that whole thing. 18 times by 18. I've got 324. And we're using meters squared, right? So let's add in our little square. Okay. Now, how do we figure the rest out? Well, let's find out the area of the white part. How you do that? 13 times by 13. And that gives us 169. That's also meters squared, because that's area, right? So now what we need to do is we're going to take our big area, which is 324, and we're going to subtract. We're going to take this part away. Can you imagine a piece of cardboard and you've cut out the middle and you've thrown that part away? You've only got your frame to be able to frame up your artwork or whatever it be, right? So that part you can discard, the subtracting part, right? So you can just take that away from it. And what is your answer? Use your calculator. 324. I have 155 again. When you're adding or subtracting, your label stays exactly the same. So it will be meters squared, or as they write it out in words, square meters. All right, so I hope that that helps you understand what is required from these kind of questions. You figure out the outside, you take away the inside. It's that simple. Okay, so let's try a couple. What is the area of the shaded region? Let's try it together. Take that. I think that whole thing is, unfortunately, let's just undo. There we go. All right, so we're going to, nope, I want to keep that. Okay, let's add in. I'm afraid we're going to have to keep that part. We can just cross it out. Just go like that. That's from the last one. We wanted to keep the formula, which is the part I was trying to focus on. Okay, so area is equal to length times by your width. So looking at the big outside, you would go 11 times by 18. Again, you could do 18 times by 11. Really doesn't matter which order you multiply. That's the properties of multiplication, 198. And what is our unit is millimeters. So when you're multiplying, remember, you get millimeters squared. And we're going to be finding out the area of our inside. So 12 times by 5. And that is equal to 60, right? And that is again millimeters squared. And how do we get just the green part? we take the outside and we subtract the inside. 198 subtract 60. And what do you get? 198 subtract 60, you get 138. And that is still millimeters squared because we are not multiplying. We are just adding or subtracting. Okay, so let's punch that in, 138 square millimeters. Wonderful. Let's try one more together. And before you go on your own, let's try. Okay, so I suggest that you do try to figure this one out. Pause if you need to, and then come back and see if you got it right. So we take the big guy first, 10 times by 17, and that is equal to 170. And we've got centimeters squared, right? Then we're going to take our inside, and we've got 7 times by 4. And that is, I should know that, 28. I'm relying too much on my calculator, but that's okay. At least I won't make a silly mistake. All right, and we're going to take our big guy, and we're going to take away our inside guy. Right, so 170, subtract 28, and we're left with 142, still centimeters squared. It doesn't change when you are subtracting. All right, I hope that this makes a whole lot of sense to you and that you'll be able to really do well. Good, have a good day, and I hope that, yeah, we'll have a good chat later on today. Ciao for now.